Before we get into this week's episode, Blue Cabin Publishing have asked me to talk to you about my new book, Find Your Freedom, It's Time to Write Your Own Blueprint, available to buy right now on Amazon in both paperback and ebook. This is a book for those feeling lost, stuck, disengaged and diminished. It's for those who've reached a point in their life and are thinking there has to be more. There can be, and this book will offer you a perspective and toolkit to pursue it. So if you are living a miserably successful life or feel root bound, that sense that the life you have is constricting you and giving you no further space to grow, then get your copy of Find Your Freedom today. It might just be the catalyst you need. Right. Back to me and my fantastic guest on this week's episode of the Hands Up If You're Human podcast. Hello and welcome to the Hands Up If You're Human podcast, an ongoing series of conversations dedicated to exploring the messy reality of being human. The truth is there is nothing we can think, say, do, feel, or experience that isn't 100% human. So it's time to drop the guilt and the shame, embrace everything that we are, and start to create a life we really want to live. My name is Wyndham. I am the Blueprint Coach, and it is my great pleasure to welcome somebody to the show today who, now just take a minute.
Oh, God.
Lawyer by training, former partner at Denton Wild and Sapter, former trustee at Jamie Oliver Food Foundation, former MD and then CEO at Jamie Oliver Media Group, board advisor to multiple organisations over the years, currently non-executive director and chair for La Ava, which is a sustainable British wellness brand, co-owner of Casa Fuzetta, which was listed by Conde Nast Traveller as one of the best yoga retreat locations in the world, and co-host of her own podcast, Casa Fuzetta, The House of Stories. It is a slightly out of breath, but very excited to welcome to the podcast, Tara Donovan. Welcome, Tara. How are you?
I'm good. Intimidated. Who is this
By
person?
yourself?
No. Being here is great. Thank you.
Good. So, first question, what's missing from that list?
Oh, you can't spring questions like that on me. What's missing from the list? Oh, well, I did say there are 3 more projects live. So there's other stuff in the pipeline, but probably 2. Oh, no, I can say. So each of my kids is embarking on an entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah.
And I am a non-exec officially on Daisies, the GTG collective. So that will be about creating a platform marketplace for sustainable fashion, but not just retail, but everybody within the sustainable fashion industry. And actually, whether even as a consumer, you're at the beginning of your journey of interest in that, to everybody who is a designer wanting to connect with other designers, understand, upskill themselves, or just want to have a community of people to bounce ideas through. Because I've certainly learned since leaving the sort of the lawyer and then the corporate world that it gets intimidating and challenging when it's just you and your laptop.
Yeah.
So actually interconnecting with real people is huge. It brings so much. So we love that. So that's Daisy. Will is on a different journey around geopolitics and long-term joined up thinking to change the world. Love that. Nothing small. And then I have another project, but I'm really excited about, for all sorts of different reasons, because what I can say is that's about, we were talking earlier about changing systems. And so this is about the traditional world, particularly of retail and corporate space, needs reimagining. And the people that I'm working with, what's really exciting is that they want to reimagine how a space works for the benefit of everybody who comes into the space, whether the locals or visitors alike. And they have the money to back that up, because of late I've been talking to people within the sort of property industry who go, they like one in particular, and it was like, oh my God, I found, you know, a kindred spirit.
Yeah.
Really, really gets it. But she's going, you know, if you talk to any of the estates that are controlled by private equity, they're like, right, that is short term, you know, can't take a risk. So this will be, you know, they really, this could be a blueprint or is an example for other parts in the country, around the world, to really showcase actually what could be done. And somehow or other they want me to be involved in that thinking, and that's like daunting, but because I'm not sure how I have really any authority in that space at all, but super excited to throw my 2 pennies worth in.
Yeah, wow.
So yeah, that's what's immediately next.
There is even more. It's really interesting because that particularly the two, well, actually those 3 projects, the ones you've added to the list, the 2 that you're working with your children are spearheading. That's the reimagining of long established methods of working, either in the fashion industry or geopolitically, which not small boulders to shift, not, you know, those are sticky levers to pull. And then this idea of reimagining retail space, the fact that it's interesting because lots of people have ambition, lots of people have desire and drive for change. And you do need somebody to bankroll it. And that person who's bankrolling it also has to have the massive vision. To change, because if they're VC or private equity owned, then it's like, no, we want our money back in 5 years. We don't want our money back. We want 5x our money back in 5 years. So you cannot do anything radical. There's no space for it. But all of these things are like hugely potentially impactful. It's very exciting.
And I suppose that's what you know, actually I hadn't really thought about it like that, but I suppose that's also what excited me going back to Jamie. I mean, when I first started with Jamie, well, he was a client first. So he was a client, can you believe it, 2000. So that's 25 years ago. He was what, 21 at that point. So that predates 15, predates school dinners, predates Ministry of Food, predates Food Revolution. But there was something about the way he thought and the energy that he brought that you just go, oh, okay, let's see where this goes and what it can do. And obviously I was part of that journey for 15 years in one shape or form. And I mean, it would horrify people to know quite how that operation worked. So for a long time, there was lots of it was held together with, well, you will know because lovely Louisa worked with us. But a lot of it was held together with bits of string and sticky back plastic.
Is that, I mean, I don't know. I don't have that kind of depth of experience of that kind of not even that kind of organization, but that innovation driven, new idea, new energy, all that kind of stuff. Isn't that how organizations grow though? They are creaking they're all kind of gaffer taped together, and
which is when so with La Eva, for example, where sometimes it's creaking and Louisa goes, I'm like, no, that's fine. It's normal. That's normal.
Yeah.
It is normal. And she needs, you know, and she struggles with that sometimes. And it's like, no, if you knew what we did, but the point there was, it was like extraordinarily exciting to have, you know, our relatively small team off Old Street was then having this massive impact.
Yeah.
Not only in the UK, but around the world. And it was just like, yeah, no, if you have the energy and if you have the conviction, you can, and you have somebody who will back it, you know, as you say, everybody needs to have that shared vision for doing it. And then, you can do really exciting things.
Yeah, it's interesting because you said when you started working with Jamie Oliver, it was that kind of, well, see where this goes and what it can do. There's an innate uncertainty in that.
Yes, one has to get comfortable.
Like really embracing, I don't know. No idea.
No idea.
It feels good, right? It's exciting. So let's do it.
Yes.
What's the worst that can happen?
Exactly. And I think I remember having this conversation with a friend, really good friend, and they'd had some real problems with a property that they owned in New York and then something in London, and it was a real mess. And they found somewhere in Hampstead, and he was like, "Oh, T, what do you think? What do you think? I really think this is the one. It seems to be going well, but I'm not sure. I doubt myself. We've got into so much trouble with these other things." And I'm just like, go with the flow. The flow will tell you. If the flow continues, you know it's the right, you go with it, go with that. If it's meant to be, it has flow.
Yeah.
If it's not meant to be, it won't. Case in point, Casa Fuzetta. First time, there was no plan. People go, "Oh, you must have been dreaming of this thing, and you've been to Portugal lots of times." It's like, nope, no. The first time I ever set foot in Portugal was the end of September 2013. And Todd had said, "Let's go and have a look at this." Okay, fine, whatever. And when we were there, we met some local people, and they said, "Well, you know, if you don't understand, in Portugal, the bureaucracy, which I now know to be true, is horrific. You know, it'll take you 2 years to figure out who owns it, 2 years to get planning permission, and 2 years to build it." I'm like, "Oh,
I haven't got 6 years.
I haven't got 6 years. Yeah, life's too short." And suddenly, 2 months later, we owned it. And it flowed to the point where the local architects were like going, this, you guys must have a guardian angel for this project. I have never seen anything flow and be supported by the local town hall and all the suppliers and everybody in the way that this has been. And it had complete flow. And then somehow or other, we got a bit cocky and we bought another building round the corner, which was going to be for us. And I have tried 15 times, I kid you not, that's 15, over an 8-year period to get it built.
Wow.
And at the moment, all I have is a facade and nothing behind it, and all sorts of problems with it. And so I'm like, I said to Todd, I said to Todd, that's it. This one is not for us. It could be really for somebody else, but this one's not for us. There is no flow. So flow, go with, follow the energy.
Yeah. Which with Casa Fuzetta is absolutely it. With that, as an attitude, as an outlook on life, that you hold that's
Mhm.
just we'll go with it, see what happens,
Yeah.
give it a go. How has that always been your outlook? Or I guess where does that come from?
I don't know, to be honest. But I think because I was obviously trying to think about, you might ask me some questions for the podcast. There have been moments in my life where I have known definitely what I don't want.
Okay.
And there have been times where it's like, okay, keep going, go with it. And then suddenly, and so you've done that, and then suddenly it's like, oh, yay, we're going with that.
Okay.
So, for example, I have a bit of an odd education. So I had a French education. So actually getting into an English university was quite hard for me. And I didn't really, I'm an only child. My mum hadn't been to uni. My dad had started medical school and had to drop out. So there was no one really in my world there was no advice.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't know what I want to do. What am I interested? I'll do law and then I can kick the can down the road.
Strong degree.
Yeah, strong degree options, give me options. And then when it came to the point where you had to sort of, okay, the end of uni is coming, now what? I sort of made some decisions. It's like, well, I hate public speaking, so I'm definitely not going to the bar.
Yeah.
So that means I'll go do the other one. And then it's like, okay, so where you had to apply for articles, and I was looking at things that was like, no. Oh, there are firms that specialize in entertainment law. Who knew?
Right.
Who knew? But it's like, oh, this firm does more film production, is the biggest firm outside of LA for film production, TV production, music, books. I'm like, I'm in. I am so not interested in city corporate commercial drive. Just like shoot now. Although the irony comes back to bite me when I'm at Jamie's. But so I'm like going, yeah, that's exciting. I'm interested. What's the end product? What are we creating? Even if I always felt at that point I was coming out of school being dismissed as you're not creative. It's like, okay, but I have a pull to the creative field. So if I can't be a creative, how can I be within the creative industries? And so suddenly I'm like going, hey, got it. I'm in. So I made, it really, my kids hate hearing this. I was so lucky. So I'm like, okay, there are 10 firms in London who do this. I put in applications to the top 10 firms, got 9 interviews and 8 offers.
Wow.
Thank you very much. Excellent. Went in. Which department do you want to be in when you qualify? Well, there was only ever one when I came in. I had to do the other 3 to tick the box, but that's the one I want.
Yeah.
And I got lucky. There's a longer story, but I got lucky, got in, and got lucky again because the farm had done all of these brutal due diligences where one big company will acquire either another company or the library, like whether it's a film library or TV library or EMI buying Virgin, that kind of thing. And they basically treated their assistants as cannon fodder. And so the assistants went, we're out. But that meant that the super junior guys who were just qualifying, like me, it's like the senior boys wanted to get anything done. They didn't have any choice but to give it to us. So we got this super speeded up learning curve because there wasn't anybody in between us. So I learnt lots, and it was like, yeah, it was brilliant. It was fun. It was exciting. So you kept on doing it, and then you make partner, and you then get to have a look under the bonnet and went, nah, they just nah, and there was no, oh my God, partnerships, if anybody do that, anyway, the least collegiate, most cutthroat sort of dynamic, and everything was just like, oh, everything would take so long.
Right.
And it would take you 6 months to persuade them that something was a good idea. And then you go, yeah, and you need, we should be doing this together. Oh, I have to do something. Oh, you're just like, okay,
Yeah.
fine. I'm out. And then fortuitously, all of that. I actually had a life coach around that time, and she was helping me to, so that was my first experience of life coaching. But it was thanks to Lucy that actually I was able to identify what I wanted, and then so jump ship and ended up, it wasn't a direct link, there's a story, but ended up working with Jamie.
Yeah, it's really interesting because you started that by saying you've always been good at knowing what you don't want.
Yeah.
And I think with so many people, we focus on what we don't want. And we don't, I mean, I was the same. I was stuck in my career for 20 years and I knew what I didn't want, and I lacked the courage and the confidence to take that exploration further into, well, what do I want?
Yeah.
And there's this idea that, taking away what you don't want doesn't give you what you do want. It gives you a vacuum. And something will come into that vacuum. So to figure out what you don't want, I'm in a situation that I want to change, and then have the willingness to look for what else is out there, I think is massively important.
So the interesting thing is I didn't go looking, in the sense that I had a, I can't remember, once a week, once every couple of weeks call with Lucy. And after 2 or 3, it was like, okay, we've done what we don't want.
Yeah.
So we've done that bit.
Yeah.
Next week, we're going to turn to what that we need to turn it on its head. And it needs to be, what do we want? And I remember the day before I was due to have my call, like, shit, I haven't done my homework. It's like, what do I want? What do I want? And I think Daisy, so this is early 2003, Daisy would have been 2 and Will would have been coming up 4.5. So I have not had a decent night's sleep in 5 years.
Yeah.
I haven't had any time to myself. I have run across London to meet with a client. I'm in suddenly walk into this very fancy restaurant. We have a table in the middle, and I go, oh, I'm on my own. He hasn't turned up. And then I go, well, that's okay. I could go back to the office, or I can do my homework. And I literally had an old envelope. I mean, it sounds so cliche. Back of an envelope, what are the 5 things that I want? And so it's not about, I want this job or that job, but what's important to me. I identified 5 things, wrote them down, literally 1-word things. Because I was being asked as well at the time to go with one of my partners to move to another firm. It's like, you know what, if there's a panel of lights and there are 5 lights, that was like doing 1 and a bit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, nah. The following lunchtime, I get a call from the guy who basically became Jamie's de facto CEO. And suddenly, mentally, he starts talking, and I'm like, I can see all 5 lights light up. Not because of particularly what he was saying, but because of and I was alive somehow to the energy of the call. And I'm like, oh, okay, how can I mold, actually, I suppose, manipulate this conversation into one that might then keep those 5 lights alive. And so Frosty went, oh, did Jamie call you about this? And I went, no. And he said, oh, because we pitched the idea to him last night, and he immediately said, we need Tara. The rest of us said, well, you'll never get her to leave Denton's. So I said, how about we have lunch tomorrow? And by Monday, I'd decide.
Wow. I love that. And I love it for lots of reasons, but one reason in particular is that these 5 lights.
Yeah.
I talk a lot about mechanism versus meaning.
Oh, okay.
So anything we do is a mechanism, and it is in service to a deeper meaning.
Yes.
The meaning sounds like it's the 5 lights. If you can encompass it in one word per light, there's a deeper thing going on.
Yes.
That then, once you are aware of those things, then the mechanisms that is much easier to judge the mechanism. Like you saying, keeping those 5 lights, can I manipulate the conversation to keep these 5 lights alive? That's amazing. And I think that just demonstrates the power of going beneath what we're normally taught to look for, which is the mechanism, which is the doing. What's the job title you want? What's the firm you want to work for?
No, exactly. There was none of that. My 5 did not have any of that. I'm not sure I can even remember what my 5 were, but I think my 5 were real teamwork, which ties back to what I was saying before. Speed was like, I can't, let's do stuff. Impact, travel, but not too much. And equity in the business.
Brilliant.
And there you go. It literally delivered. You couldn't. I remember a couple of months later, Jamie's like going, so how is it? It's like, you know that expression, be careful what you wish for. Because the speed, the teamwork and the speed, my God, suddenly we went from, snail's pace to, okay, can you overtake Usain Bolt? It's just like, Jesus, no, not every day.
Again, though, I think that's really interesting as well, because it's like speed is, if we were working on a client basis, we'd be interrogating speed again. There's a deeper meaning behind speed. And you were talking about earlier, you made a comment around, is this exciting for me? And it's like speed is like, okay, there's a lot that comes with speed. Exactly as you say, there's excitement, there's realization of things quickly, there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of uncertainty. There's all these kind of things that come together. But I think it's brilliant. I think it's a critical part of the process if you're looking for something different, is to understand what those 5 lights might be. Because then 99% of the mechanisms fall away instantly because they don't like the 5 lights. And
exactly.
The few that do, you then get to make a decision. Brilliant. I'm very conscious that I only have 3 questions and I haven't asked any of them yet. But this is all really, this is all really, really interesting. It all feeds into it, I think, because, I started by saying, have you always had that ability to go with the flow, to find the flow, to, I guess, to some degree, embrace uncertainty? So let me come to the kind of main question. This season is about finding your freedom. What does finding your freedom mean to you?
Oh, I think I know the answer to that one, which is ties to what we were talking about, which is making decisions for a positive reason, not for a negative one.
Oh, okay.
So you're making so it goes back to it ties in with what we're talking about. What you don't you know, it's generally easier to go, I don't want that, but I always advocate, make a decision, a positive one. So for example, you want to, and look, I remember listening to PB, and I'm the same as Peter in terms of, like, I'm extraordinarily privileged, worked hard, of course, to do it, but came from lots of luck on my side. So I acknowledge that. But it means, for example, you're not having to make a choice because you have to, for example, for the money.
Yeah.
I'm making choices because I have the luxury of choosing who I work for. And I suppose I also, a bit like PP, I was like going, yeah, that, you know, I have real issues with people who only do things for the money. And look, if I only wanted to do stuff for the money, I'd still be a partner at one of the big city law firms earning, you know, £1 million a year.
And you'd have gone into mergers and acquisition or something like that, or tax or something.
And trust me, Jesus, no, I mean, I literally would have shot myself.
Yeah.
You know, I'm super commercial. We have a very nice life. And yes, I like the finer things in life, and I'm able to enjoy those. But that said, you know, private jet, no. Big expensive yachts, no. Why do you need that? That's all for different reasons. So I try to always make my decisions because I'm excited by them.
Yeah.
And that I want to do them. Or you could look at it in the context of marriage, you know, marry someone because, or stay with them because they're the person you want to be with, not because you feel, well, what else?
It's too hard to not.
It's too hard. Yeah. So that, I think, is the ultimate freedom, is that you've got the freedom to make a positive choice. I mean, I mean, is it a mindset or is it your circumstances? Potentially it's a bit of both, but yeah.
Yeah, it's. I think I can't remember whether I said it to PB, but this idea of luck, I'm hesitant about luck.
No, I'm really clear that luck is
I think
there's
super important. Fortune. There's good fortune. For me anyway, the definition of luck is I have no part to play in it. None whatsoever. Something happens that I have had, like, I'm born to parents who prioritize education. Complete luck.
Yeah.
I don't get to choose that. So that's luck. The fact that I met Louisa and have spent 20 odd years with her, that's not luck, that's good fortune. Now, I had no choice she was going to go to the same university as me. That's luck.
Yeah.
When we met and got on, and that's good fortune, not luck, I think. So the idea of, yes, you can tell a story about your career that feels like there's a lot of luck going on here. There's a lot of good fortune, but had you been in a different mindset, had you not been the following the energy, there are 1 million people who could have had the same doors and it not have worked out the way it has for you, I think. And so I think it's more about, this is semantics on how we choose to define these words, but I love the idea of finding freedom is the ability to choose from a positive place rather than from a negative one.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that I think is because I've been trying to practice your.
No, well, I think it's such a simple one as well. And it's got nothing to do with outcome.
No.
It's all about how you approach anything.
Or the other one, a little more crude, is if it ain't a hell yay, it's a fuck no.
Yeah. which is broadly the same thing.
Yeah. If it excites you, do
Yeah.
it.
And but I think what's really important though is you're now in a position where these opportunities arise off the back of years of you living with that attitude.
Yeah.
So there's like a compounding effect that the people you've met as a result of all those, if it's not a hell yeah, it's a fuck no. That moves
Yes.
you into orbits of energy that kind of
Yes.
compounds
Yes.
over time.
Yes. Yes.
I think it's a brilliant encapsulation of freedom and an approach to it that is different from everybody else's I've asked that question to.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's great. And interesting, you were talking about you've never got your head around or can't understand people who do it just for the money, whatever it might be. I think money is a really poor signifier of fulfillment.
Yes.
It is a mechanism in and of itself.
Well, and my feeling has always been, as I say, you know, hands up. I like, you know, we have a very nice life. I like doing nice things, blah blah. But my view, and this is one of the reasons why I had various falling outs at different points with not Jamie but senior people on the Jamie team, is that financial commercial success is the end result of, or should be, the product of you actually, or us collectively, creating something for the betterment. It sounds grandiose, but for the betterment of the world, for society. We're creating something that makes everybody else's life better. So it's very, you know, it's all about the external value that we are offering. It's not about, and you get that right, whether it's a service or a product or whatever it is, well, then, you know, commercial success is a natural, should, I'm actually really fired up, but, you know, should come as a natural outcome. But if you flip it, people smell it, they don't know why. But I remember, for example, following the initial success of Jamie's Italian, people would come to me 2 or 3 years later and go, what is going on? It's just not the same. And I'm like thinking, yeah, because if you sat in that group board meeting that I had last week with the senior people at the top, I can tell you exactly what's going on and why. And so people, you know, Jamie, you can sue me if you want, but whoever, but it was a shit show. And it's like it trickles down, and people energetically, they feel it, they sense it. They might not be able to pinpoint why, but they do. And so whether it's the staff in the premises, or that, you know, some of the attention to detail on dishes or in other elements had been removed because it was going to someone at the board thought
P&L was more important.
P&L was more important. Well, ultimately we saw what happened.
It's a fascinating, it's so interesting to me, because in the coaching world you just have lots of coaches coach coaches, which for me,
okay, that's interesting,
feels a little bit like a Ponzi scheme. It's like there's a finite amount of money and it's just passed around coaches coaching coaches. That's not quite what it is, but it's almost as if actually they found the easiest people to sell to are coaches, because there's this kind of theory in coaching that, well, if you don't have a coach, how can you persuade somebody else that they need a coach? So there's this little narrative that goes around, which makes selling coaching to coaches very easy. to a certain group of coaches. But it's that whole idea of, well, what's driving your intention? Is your intention to genuinely impact other people, or is it actually you can charge coaches a higher rate?
Yeah,
because you're telling them, well, you should charge higher to your clients, and it's like and I think with the explosion of social media, it's in all things. You kind of have come to my how to be a billionaire property mogul seminar, and as what are you a property billionaire? Well, no. Okay, so why am I learning from you? It is that, are you driven by a deeper meaning that you're trying to create for yourself, or is it, well, we want to make some money? And money's important. That there's nothing wrong with making a really sizable living doing something you care about.
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with making a sizable living doing anything, but don't be surprised if it's money first.
Exactly.
If you end up miserable.
Yeah.
Because you will.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I agree.
Okay, so with all of that, this feels like there's been a constant through line of positive decisions over negative ones. And yes, there's a period where you have to identify the negative, but you're not making decisions based on the negative.
Yeah.
You flip it. Freedom is the opportunity, the privilege to be able to do that, whether given or created.
Yep.
What is something that you consistently find yourself having to create freedom from?
I was thinking about that. Can't really think of much. The only thing I could come up with was what other people think and the sort of people pleasing, I suppose. Because I'm a product of my generation and probably the generation before that. And so there's always quite a lot of, what does other people think? But I think, or I like to think, that over the years I've gone, I don't care. But there's probably part of me that's still lurking, and that I have to remind myself not to care. I always feel like I've actually done, in a way, my life is a bit upside down. Like I always worked when the kids were little until I left Jamie's, and then things became different. But when I left Jamie's, which was 10 years ago, the kids, Will and Daisy, would have been in their mid-teens. And then the irony was that all of those friends of mine who were also mums, as their kids were getting into their mid to late teens, they were like, oh, maybe we should start work.
Right.
And I'm like, well, actually, I'm coming out and doing things differently. So I've always felt like I'm slightly at odds. And occasionally you go, ooh, am I a bit of a misfit? And then you go, nah, please. Fuck it.
Yeah.
So what?
More misfits the better.
Exactly. So, but still, sometimes you still have to sort of
remind yourself.
Yeah. It's good.
And with that in mind, have there been periods where, your definition of freedom, positive decisions, not negative, and then the only thing that you find yourself sometimes having to remind yourself not to care about is other people's opinions and this idea of being a people pleaser? Have there been situations where you have not followed the flow or not done the exciting thing as a result of that voice?
Don't know, but I'm sure there have been times and places where I have bitten my tongue, as opposed for a period of time, in order to keep the peace in whatever social situation it might be. I mean, in fact, dinner last night was one, and it's like, okay, I'll just play nice, shut up, you know. So there are times and you go, okay. But I suppose that's part of adulting, that you have to sort of pick your battles.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah.
There's that idea that years and years ago, I had somebody in my life, I mean, this was decades ago, somebody in my life who would always speak their mind.
Yes. And
whatever it was. And they would always say, hey, I'm just telling the truth, just being honest, I'm just being authentic. And it was like, you're actually just being really fucking rude. And this is now awkward for all of us. And
yeah.
Yes, my awkwardness is my responsibility, and how I deal with it is up to me. And still, I'm not going to be in your life anymore because this has just gone on too much.
Yeah.
There are consequences for every decision. And with that whole kind of biting your tongue, consequences for not.
Well, that's the thing. And so you
Yeah.
do, one has to judge the situation accordingly.
Yeah. I'm definitely.
But I suppose I suppose really the point is, am I alive to it? Yes.
Yeah, and it doesn't sound like you haven't missed out on any of the 5 light situations as a joke, as a result of
No.
the impact of people pleasing.
I don't think so. Not yet.
Brilliant. I'm very much a responder, not a reactor. You know, you have some people who kind of speak their mind because they can't help themselves. I have only really ever done that twice, and I have had to apologize profusely afterwards because it didn't need to be said or whatever it was. So I'm a biter of the tongue. Sometimes I think is, you know what, it's not always a bad thing.
Yeah. So that's what
okay. So what are you creating freedom to?
Oh, I did write that down.
Yeah. Like a guest who's prepared.
My little scribbles. What was
Although you didn't bring your glasses, though, no? So.
No, actually, the glasses are not for reading.
Okay.
This is what I'm saying. I'm opposite to everybody else. At our age, everybody puts their glasses on in order to read. I actually have to take my glasses off to read.
Okay.
I need my glasses to be able to see across the room.
Okay.
Like I can't see the screen.
Okay.
So reading's not the problem. What did I write here? I went with I have always felt, that life is for living. And we're here as humans to live the full range of human experience. And therefore, that's what we want to have the freedom to be able to do. So it's like, going back to my dentist days, I remember it was my 25th birthday. I was working late, and one of the senior partners was came in with a glass of champagne because he was celebrating 25 years at the firm. And I went, oh my God, no, I never want to be that person. I don't want to be doing the same thing for 25 years. And that's when, and the reason I got the life coach that first time was because I suddenly realized I was halfway through that 25 years. And it's like, blink, and you will have been there for 20, because I had loved it. Certainly the first 10 years, I absolutely loved. So the freedom is to go, okay, well, here we go. Yeah, we've got 3 new projects this year on top of the existing ones. I will go a little bit batty probably later in the year. So but their excitement, that's what I love being able to go, oh, there's a germ of an idea.
Yeah.
And that's what I loved with Jamie. And that's why I wanted to stop being a lawyer, because I was like, if one thinks about ideas, people would be coming to, so if there's a germ of an idea here, people then thought they were doing a deal, and then they'd come to me to go, can you paper it? Basically, can you draft and reflect what we've agreed? And then they'd walk out, and then there'd be this whole thing where supposedly the idea would be brought to life. And what I quickly discovered is quite often that execution piece was missing or was poorly done. So with Jamie and what I can do now, that's what fired me up. I was like, oh, I get involved in the idea creation phase. And then with Jamie, it was like, then I lead the negotiation, do some quick and dirty drafting in terms of getting the documents done, brief the teams and oversee the teams in the execution.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah. So I suppose the point is that with Casa Fuzetta, with La Eva, with Will and Daisy, again, it's that point. It's like, okay, where's the germ of the idea, and how can you bring it to life? Because ideas don't belong in there's no point having an idea and leaving it on the shelf.
Ideas are easy as well.
Yeah, it's this bit.
Yeah. That's really interesting, because you said earlier that you had been told you're not creative.
Yes.
And I was going to follow up on that then, but we got onto something else. But did you ever believe that?
Yes, you're told it enough.
Well, yeah.
Because I was, again, when I was at school 72 to 85. So in that period, people's notions of creativity was, I suppose, fine arts or music.
Yeah.
It was very particular, and I couldn't draw for toffee. I mean, trust me, there were a whole bundle of things I could not do for toffee, but things like maths and history and geography and economics and stuff like that, I was seemingly really quite good at. So I got labeled, and you get labeled as a kid.
Yeah.
So I was labeled the sort of the academic one.
Yeah.
I mean, sport, car crash, arts, car crash, music. So I just went, okay, well, I'll follow that path, and you accept these labels. And then at Jamie's, I remember one time, I can't remember who else was around the table, but there was me, Jamie, and a few other of the team. I think it was part of the TV team. And they were having a creative discussion. And I tried to pitch in, as is my want, as you remember. and Jamie turned around and basically went, but no, you're not part of the creative team. You're the brains. You do the commercial stuff. We need you doing that. And so basically, again, it was like, it was very much, I was definitely made to feel, or I allowed myself to feel, you're the sort of, you're the brain, you're not the creative.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, okay. And then with Casa Fuzetta, it's like, oh, actually, fuck you lot.
Yeah.
If I'm allowed to swear on your podcast.
100%.
But it was just like, actually, creativity I now understand actually means there's a much broader spectrum of what that should be interpreted as.
Yeah.
And so I do feel like I've been able to tap into and go, no, I do.
It's not true. I am creative. and I'm
I'm
a
just
brain,
different.
and I'm the one who's going to get it done. It's
Yeah, there are other ways of interpreting what creativity means.
yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? Because when it's that idea of your two children are embarking on entrepreneurial, working for themselves, building something meaningful.
Probably only because I'm kicking them and going, you can't wait to get a job with anybody else.
And the job industry is awful at the moment.
Yeah, be masters of your own destiny.
But in doing that, they get to define what all of those words mean. So creative is their definition because it's their business. It's their approach. Whereas when we work for other people, even though fine, one of the lights was equity, it's still a structure that exists. It's still, I mean, I don't know, but it's still kind of Jamie at the figurehead in that instance. But it's like, well, actually, a lot of this is not defined by you.
Yeah.
Whereas Casa Fuzetta, all of it, designed by you. So I am conscious of our time. We've got a little bit more time, and I love Casa Fuzetta. It's so for people who are not coming to this from Casa Fuzetta, something about stories. What's your
The House of Stories? Sorry, Casa Fuzetta, the House of Stories.
But for everybody else, Casa Fuzetta is I'm going to let Tara tell you, but it's a remarkable. I was about to say property, but it feels like it's more than a property, right? It is a building.
It's a building. It's a building. I suppose it's a retreat venue in the Eastern Algarve in a little fishing town called Orléans, which is the most unlikely place for high-end retreats because we're in a town and it's a working town. It's not glamorous, but it's really special, and it has the house and the town and the people exude an energy which over the course of the last 8 years, we had our 8th birthday yesterday, has just grown and grown and grown and grown. And what I really love is that it's literally, I mean, people talk, the woo-woo crowd will talk about this, energies vibrating and other people and it attracting people in. Oh my God, does Casa Fuzetta do that? And people arrive on our doorstep. I mean, that's why it's called the House of Stories, because you would not, it's literally 1 in a billion chance of such and such a person arriving on our doorstep. When they do, to ask or to offer or to tell a story, and you're like, how is that possible? It is not possible. This is about an energetic vibration, that somehow rather ripples out. And in the podcast, we'll talk about these sort of golden threads of connection. So it's like this energetic spider's web that's out there across the planet. And it's almost like, oh, yes, can you hear it? Can you hear it? And people do. And suddenly they're at our doorstep.
It's one of those, but I've been very fortunate to visit twice. And it is, you said Orléans is an unlikely location for high-end retreat. It is super high-end Casa Fuzetta, beautifully finished. It is just beautiful. But that is just part of it.
Exactly.
There is this intangible, energetic feeling in that place. That's stunning.
And people, it's what's so interesting is if people have been, they know it, they tap into it, they consciously contribute to it. But even unconsciously, I would say people respond to it, and they'll start talking about how they feel in the space in ways that make me know, oh, you're getting it, even if you didn't know that's what you were looking for.
Yeah.
And then in February, I host workations. So it's a slightly new concept. We did our third one this year, and it was just, I could not have asked for more. We were sold out, but it wasn't that we were just sold out. It's again, we had guests from 25 to 75. So across the spectrum of ages and across disciplines and countries and experiences, and everybody comes and they share, and some inevitably you find stories, oh, we were at the same uni together, but you know, did we know each other then? I'm not sure, blah blah. But they go, like, one guest, as an example, who came to stay with us this year, I need to ask her how she found us, actually, but she's a film director, but also works with the V&A, and she'd come down, really lovely. We've all got massive girl crushes on Emily. And she came down, she goes, oh my God, I've been waking up at 5 a.m. every day. Not necessarily something I'd recommend. Because, but I've been writing. It's literally like I'm plugged into the energy.
While at Casa Fuzetta.
While at Casa Fuzetta, I'm plugged into the energy of the house. And I've never experienced anything like this. I start at 5 a.m. and I write non-stop till 7 p.m. when we all meet again for dinner.
Wow. And
she's just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I'm literally alive. And sometimes I come back, because I also host first retreat of the year called the Heal the Healers Retreat, which is where other people who look after coaches, psychotherapists, retreat leaders. It's like, okay, you spend the rest of the year looking after and supporting others. Come to us for January, and I will do that for you. But sometimes when I come back, to London, I'm very alive to the fact I'm supercharged with energy. And in the first years, I would say, oh, I've put my finger in the socket. Now I'm like, I've put my both hands and my head. And sometimes it's like there's so much energy that you get from it that I'm probably a real pain in the ass for anybody who comes into my vicinity for a couple of weeks until things sort of settle and calm down a bit. But people then love going back to workations. People love the creative exchange and the energy of the other people there. And in fact, if you want to listen to the podcast, there are a couple of interesting episodes where one is with a lady called Jane Mackey, who is the founder of Raw Dairy, which is a yogurt business in Aberdeenshire. Not your obvious choice.
No. It's one of those, listening to what you were saying, the Casa Fuzetta seems to be, from the outside looking in, a perfect example. Everything you said, that it should have taken 6 years. The other project you have has taken 15 and it's 8 and it's going nowhere, or whatever. That to pursue things for money alone doesn't work. Pursue them for meaning. Money comes. And Casa Fuzetta is this
embodiment of
meaning
that,
first. It is a very, very special place.
No, we've been lucky, but
fortunate. because
we've tapped into
that is surrendering to the flow.
Or my mantra with Casa Fuzetta, trust. Trust. Because there were times with it, but it was like, trust.
Because
you
it
have
was
to trust.
Derelict, wasn't it?
Oh yeah.
Or is it worse than derelict? There was almost like you
The
started
whole-
from scratch, really, didn't you?
Oh yeah. Yeah. No one can conceive it. So there is on our Instagram feed, there are 3 pinned posts, and one of them shows the before and the process and then the after.
It's an astonishing journey.
Yeah. No, it's mad. Or as I said to my kids, you always overestimate what you can do in a year and underestimate what you can do in 10.
Yeah.
And that's one of my other mantras.
Yeah.
So yeah, although I'm not quite sure I'm not quite sure yet what we can do in 10 with Casa Fuzetta. So we've got 2 years left.
Brace yourselves, I think is
Yeah, so the podcast was the podcast. So we're on our 2nd season of the podcast. And as I was saying, Jane Mackie, Roara Dairy, there's an interview with her where she gives her take. She's super eloquent, so lucky to have her, but she gives her take on her, basically what it's like to come for the first time. And she really didn't know anything about it. But there's those golden threads of connection. I had apparently met her 30 years ago once.
Wow.
And she had got in touch once, maybe 15 years ago, because she was working on a food project and wanted Jamie's involvement.
Wow.
And I have zero recollection of either, but I would say she's my new BFF. And then we have another interview with a lovely artist called Haruka, who is of Japanese heritage but moved to Lisbon from New York. And that's in collaboration with a German interior designer called Nora, who has become our biggest fan. There's no other way of describing it. And the first year she stayed for like 10 days, and it's like, oh, but can I extend for a bit more and extend again and extend again? And this year it was like, okay, I'm just coming for the entire period. Is that okay? Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah. And she's actually started her own podcast as well as a result. But in that episode, we have the fastest example of a manifestation, where Haruka, never quite sure how to describe her work. Anyway, she's beautiful. She does these like cartoons, illustrations. She's in there, and we did the podcast interview, and she was talking about how when she came to Casa Fuzetta, it really gave her the permission to open the cage and let her own dreams fly.
Wow. Yeah.
And she said she came back, and it was like when she was at Casa Fuzetta, it was the first time she could really go, yeah, my dream is to illustrate the front cover of the New Yorker. I want to own that is my dream.
Yeah.
And she said she'd got close. She was telling the story in the podcast. I got close. And then when she came to Casa Fuzetta for the second time, she wrote to the editorial team again to repeat the dream. I really want this to make it happen. And it's like, we'll trust that this will take place. We wrapped up the podcast. I went back to my room for a little moment, and then I got a WhatsApp message going, meet back downstairs now. I was like, okay, what's going on? It's like in the time that whilst we had been recording, the editorial team of the New Yorker had been back in touch to say, we're going. We love the new idea.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, so we recorded that. And yeah.
Wow.
And so there's this real thing where Nora would say, yeah, this is where the energy that comes from the people and the place and the combination is where she's like, this is where I can be my best self. I mean, I can't ask for more than that.
It's no wonder it's on Conde Nast's list of top places in the world to go for a retreat. It is.
It's so mad. That was
Yeah.
a conversation. Again, sort of I introduced someone to someone, and then they said, "Oh, would you have space for a journalist to come?" The journalist actually not only does luxury travel, but also skincare and wellness. I was asked to have a chat with her about publishing. We had a long chat, we got on, blah, blah. And then, 18 months later, she calls me up and says, "Oh, I've got the gig to write the Conde Nast piece on the best retreat venues in the world. Would you mind if I included Casa Fuzetta?"
Well, yeah. Give me a minute.
How many photos would you like?
But it just feels like we said earlier that Casa Fuzetta is an embodiment of go with the flow, go with the flow, meaning first, mechanism later, and energetic vibration of like a truly believed in project and a trusted and a surrendered and a loved project and place.
Yeah.
That stuff ripples. And then it comes. It is a wonderful place. Tara, thank you so much for your time. It's been a really lovely chat. If you did, I can't imagine people don't want to know more. So where can people find out about Casa Fuzetta, get in touch with you, find out about Ava, whatever it is that you want to kind of point people towards? So where can they find you?
Well, casafuzetta.com, Casa Fuzetta Instagram.
And is that one word, Casa Fuzetta?
One word
on Instagram?
Yes.
Yep.
2 T's. There's a story to that, of course. But yeah, so and Casa Fuzetta, the House of Stories podcast. So you can, if you really want to deep dive a little bit more, you can. There's the full story in the season 1, the opening episodes. I talk about how this whole crazy journey started. And then the seasons, I'm trying to remember who we had, but the whole point about why I wanted to do the podcast is because I have, as you will have gathered, some quite eclectic interests. And I also like to share and promote all the other sort of extraordinary people in the area. So that's what we've done in the various episodes, is to hence the sort of take our mics out and sometimes, excuse me, the quality. This is all really homemade cottage industry stuff. But I have got a few roving mics, and we take those out on the road occasionally to meet other retreat owners, other restaurateurs, entrepreneurs, retailers, creatives, artists, and go and spread the love and the interest, and it can't all be about us.
That was really evident actually when Louisa and I, like I said, we've been fortunate enough to go twice. The first time we came out, it must have been only shortly after you'd completed the relatively short.
I think you came out October 2016 the first time.
That sounds about right.
We weren't even officially open.
No, but even, and I know it predated that, but you were absolutely embracing the community, inviting anybody. It felt like anybody. Come in, see what we've done. This is your town.
It's still happening.
And deeply embedding. So it never felt like a couple of people from London coming over, buying up some property in Portugal, turning it into a beautiful retreat centre. You're part of that community.
Really, that was always, we talked earlier about intent, and that was always real high on the intent. The five lights,
Yeah.
that was a very, very strong light in terms of intentions.
Brilliant.
So, given I only have 4 pre-written questions, you would think I would remember to ask all 4 of those questions. If you are watching this on YouTube, you will notice the image has changed. Tara and I are no longer sat next to each other because I completely got absorbed in our conversation and forgot to ask my final question. Tara, thank you so much for making the time. I know you are super busy, so thank you so much for agreeing to at least allow me to ask and offer some takeaway to our listeners.
Pleasure.
So I will ask you the question, you can answer, and then I will cut us back to previous conversation to wrap the episode up. So the question I forgot to ask you is, I have a strong resistance when people say, this is the one thing you must do, or you should do, or you have to do. There's myriad things one could do. So what is something someone could do if they find themselves feeling lost or stuck or in need of more freedom in their life?
So I'm a bit like you. I'm loath to tell anybody anything, not least because I think it's so personal, and what's right for one person is not right for another. So fundamentally it's about tapping into yourself. I suppose the only thing I can share, and I can't remember whether we talked about it in the main bit either, but is, I suppose, to share what I did when I was lost, which is I did have a life coach. I think I might have mentioned.
You did?
So I had, by that stage, at which I had a life coach, I'd made partner at one of the big city law firms, and in theory, everything's great, 2 gorgeous, very small kids at that point. But I had a look under the bonnet and was just going, okay, I'm in my early 30s at that point. There's more. There's just more. And I think we talked about, I had several sessions of going, okay, I'm good at identifying what I don't want, but actually the tipping point came when it's like, okay, enough about that's the easy bit. You really have to tap into what do you want, what is important to you. And it's not about being prescriptive of, I want to be, I want such and such a job role or such a work for such and such a company. It's much more about, what matters to you. And in a work context, I think the things that mattered to me was genuine teamwork, an ability to make an impact, an ability to move at a pace. I wanted a stake in the business, so equity. I wanted to really feel I was properly part of something. And in my case, I love to travel. So for me, I wanted travel, but obviously having 2 young kids and husband and life here, not too much that you're completely alienated. Those were the things that were important to me. You couldn't be specific and go, okay, well, what's that going to be? But the universe did answer the following day, and the rest, as they say, is history. And be careful what you wish for. So, I think it's just you have to cut out the noise and the bullshit and the one lesson that that someone else is telling you, and actually try to really go in. And it's what is important to you, and then because then you can get into, if you then feel like you are pursuing what is important to you and what is building a life that is important, that means something to you, then I believe you will have your sense of freedom. If you're always answering to whether it's one's parents or society or your boss, or you're giving that authority fundamentally to somebody, you're giving that power over you to somebody else. And I think it was Eleanor Roosevelt who always said that, the only person who gives somebody else the ability to make you feel bad is you. So own it.
Brilliant.
I think that's it.
Yeah, I love that. I think I know in the conversation that we're about to cut back to, you spoke very eloquently about manifestation and the power in Casa Fuzetta, and some of the stories that just are like, wow, this idea of, manifestation. My understanding of manifestation is our energy goes where our focus is. So if our focus remains on what we don't want, the universe doesn't distinguish, doesn't understand the don't want in that. It just focuses on the thing we are focusing on. So if we spend all our time thinking about what we want to get rid of, our focus is on that thing.
Yeah.
So taking the time to understand it and then flip it to I think you referenced the 5 lights.
Yes.
Flipping it to what we actively want to creates the space and time and the focus and the I guess the drive to reclaim our agency in creating it, as opposed to deferring power to other people to guide us, or rather to shepherd us rather than guiding us.
Yeah.
Love it. Thank you so much, and well worth this being the first podcast I edit as a result of my inability to remember 4 questions.
Oh, the whole editing, that's been a whole learning curve in and of itself. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes,
So you'll undoubtedly get a message saying this is a lot harder than this is why I don't edit. But there we are. So thank you so much, Tara, for giving me this time, allowing me to ask and for you to answer the question. I will now cut us back to us in person.
Cool.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much for your time. For everybody listening, I'm going to put some links in the show description so that you can go straight to the Casa Fuzetta website, the Instagram page. Did you say a third one? Podcast and the podcast. So you can follow them from there. Thank you so much for listening. I greatly appreciate it. I would love to hear what you think of the show. Any feedback you have, I'd gratefully receive it. Please like, subscribe, comment, share it with anybody you know who is, particularly this episode, anyone who runs retreats. I mean, there's a waiting list, but it is well worth waiting. Please send them, share this podcast. And if you want to get in touch with the show, best way is by email. It is handsupifyou'rehuman@gmail.com. I wish you a joyful and peaceful few days, and I will speak to you soon. Take care.